I can see the chat this time. That made me so crazy. And then after the fact, after the world righted itself,
Right.
then I went and I looked and I was like, oh, Florence, oh, whatever. I was all like, so it's like, I think what happened is that the internet blipped. It held on to the stream enough that we stayed connected because it was weird we didn't disconnect, but nothing, like everything on my Zoom worked, but nothing, the wheel was just going around on the Facebook. No comments. That's
There,
fine.
there's
Go
just
in the
because you.
Hangout.
So do you normally see comments when you're like you use one laptop or one computer or two?
Yeah, so I have it on my computer and I move the Zoom panel so comments go right there
Oh,
beside,
perfect. Yeah,
all on
perfect.
one screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I have my my other work computer, but they got that all locked down. Can't do nothing fun on there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's yeah. Anyways, hi everybody.
Hello, welcome. Glad you're here.
Yeah,
Got a
hope
busy hair
everybody
day.
had a good week so far.
Can you believe it's a month till Christmas?
Can you believe it's 6 weeks until 2025?
Again, yeah, that's amazing. I have people booking stuff into 2025 and it blows me away. Like I got to really wrap my head around how close it is, right?
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
well, I know people, not me. I'm a little bit, I think a little bit future thinking, but
Okay.
I know people that book holidays, especially if they're going away, not camping, a year. Like
Oh, yeah.
I actually know people that have and part of it, I don't know if it's cheaper, like to like say to go to
Yes.
Europe now,
Yeah.
like to book.
Yeah.
It must be right. So, anyways,
Yeah. Because we go out for about 48 weeks.
right.
So, yep, exactly right. Super happy to have all my system functioning today, which
Yep,
is fabulous. Knock on wood, it stays that way. Oh, my finger's healing. Can you see it?
that's
Oh,
good.
look at that sucker. I changed my fingerprint. Woo
Yeah,
woo.
there you go. You can
Don't
commit
get into
crimes.
trouble, right?
You can commit crimes, and nobody can rat on you because you don't have one fingerprint.
Right. I watched this YouTuber. He's a lawyer and he's so funny. So he talks about different cases, and I'm a geek and I like it. And he does these reviews. He's funny. And he sells hats that say "Stop self snitching."
Self what?
Stop self snitching.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Isn't that funny? Al walked by the TV one day and he's like, "What?" And I said, "That's what people do. Like they videotape themselves doing crimes or, tell on themselves, bragging to their buddies. We all know self snitchers, right?
Well,
So funny.
I gotta tell a funny story that happened. Let's say Wednesday, must have happened. Was it yesterday? Tuesday? It was Tuesday. Yesterday. Wow. So
Time flies.
my son has between classes has a 3 hour break in between like in between classes, right? So I think he's got like 10 to 1 and then 4 to 7. So it's terrible, whatever. So I was in Vancouver, but I was back in time. I was able to pick him up. So, anyways, I needed a new TV and they were on sale at Walmart, but I need new TV because my TV is starting to have like a blue line going through it. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
notice all the time, but I know it's enough. So, I mean, I could do without. Oh, well, I tell myself I don't. I watch a lot of TV, right? I
Yeah.
PVR everything. So we go there, and Ethan's there, and I took him out for lunch. And then we went to Walmart, and then he had this little sticker of some anime character, right? So he grabs it, and he puts it in the cart. So it's in the cart. We see the lady. You got to pay for your electronics at that department. So we
Oh
leave,
right.
and we're going to the car, and then Ethan goes, "Oh, we didn't pay for the sticker," and like Ethan is never he'll never be on here. Well, if he does, then I'm busting him, right? But anyways, he's
I'm writing this down.
yeah.
What time was that?
So he's going, Dad, like what do we do? Right. And I said, don't worry about it. It's like $1, right? So whatever it was, right? I said a month ago, I went to Walmart and I went to get some stuff for mom, and she drinks flavored water.
Oh yeah.
And so I bought her one flat of 36. Well, they charged me for two. And by the
Oh,
time you get home, it was $10 a flat plus.
so you
It's
figure
just
you're
not
even?
worth. It's not worth my time. And then you got to argue. Well, you charged me for two, but I only got one. Well, are you sure you got one, sir? I just want the headache. It's too much, right?
No, you have to really do it in the moment. I agree. I've been
Yeah,
there. Yep,
yeah,
exactly. And that's not cheap. That adds up,
yeah.
right? Exactly. Welcome to anybody who's joining us already. For anybody who's brand spanking new, my name's Michelle. This is my much, 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 much older brother, Tom. And
Old.
old. No, he's not. He's not that old. We are young. We are, don't you know, 60 is the new 40, 30, 50 is the new 30. Haven't you been told
I
that
thought
yet?
60 was the new 90.
No, you're going the wrong. We're well preserved. We eat so much crap. We're well preserved,
Right.
right? Exactly right. And because you're in a calm state, then it is helping extend your telomeres so you have a younger body. Age is just a number, right? Which is important. Did you get any meditating in this week?
Every day.
Good. You're ahead
Always.
of me. I was going to, and I mentioned it to Gwen. I actually want to talk to her sometime about her singing bowls, which are super cool. But I was going to start doing it every day. I got my headset out. It's so funny. I woke up this morning and I'm doing my breathing regime, the doctor calls it. And I pick up my phone to look at it. There's the meditation. I had it all lined up to do last night. And then I've been watching, oh, something non-important. I've been watching that on Netflix, The Circle. Have you watched that one? And they're either real people or catfish. It's not sort of the thing I would usually watch, but it's pretty funny. So there's, I don't know, over the whole event, I'm on season two, but there's like nine people and they all are in these little apartments. They don't see each other. They make profiles online. People, if you're single or not, and don't think catfishing is real, this is hilarious. So, like the one guy I'm watching right now, and I'm not giving anything away, but there's like a guy, actually, the second episode I've seen, that there is a guy pretending to be his girlfriend. So he's got the girl name, he uses her pictures, and then and that's how you win $100,000 is being the last person left. It's pretty funny, but it's pretty interesting how easy people can be fooled, like,
Yeah.
and this is the problem with the online world, especially if you're single and you're meeting people through online, just being super careful and cautious, right? Maybe doing, like, even with deep fakes, do you know what those are? With the videos. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what they can do, how they can take somebody's face and smack it right on another person, and you
Yeah.
never know, right? But besides that serious part of it, it's pretty funny to watch because, like, they of course turn on each other, or some people are honest and other people just lie, but it's part of the game, right? Trickery. Yeah, it's interesting. It's better than the news.
Yeah, I think it's so funny you're saying that because what we're going to talk about before about guilt and stuff like that. It's and I know the word catfishing, heard it right, and so, but I looked it up and it said what I like. I look up words now because I realize, Michelle, I
Good.
have an assumption. To me, certain words means like I looked up guilt and things we're talking about later, but certain words when if I was sitting on a psychiatrist on his sitting in a chair, not laying on his bed, not laying on the couch or whatever they do that today, right? If somebody did a word association, it would I find it would be interesting for me, probably for a lot of us, what we mean, right? So when you're talking about catfishing, I was thinking about this whole idea of self perception because the whole idea of catfishing is giving a fake image of yourself, right?
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the degree of catfishing to totally like I'll use it. I don't know. I might get in trouble for this, but that's okay. Um, um, I believe, and it could be wrong, but like if representing yourself as anything that you're not can have a level of for to gain somebody's affection or whatever, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So if you're 63, Tom, and if I put a 30-year put my 30-year-old picture on profile, I might not be full catfishing mode, but now I'm starting to with self-perception, I'm trying to make myself more palatable. The problem with that, well, the problem with full-born catfishing, um, it's there's a narcissistic part of that. People that like do that. A game's different, like that's different, right?
Or they're legit scammers.
Yeah.
Like
So
they're literally ripping you off of down the road.
yeah, and it's funny because me and you were talking about we like the show Traders, right?
Yeah.
So here's the show Traders. Are you watching the new season?
No, is there a new season? What?
Yep, new
I gotta
season
go
on. I'll send you. It's on like
Netflix.
CTV or Global or whatever, right?
Oh.
But anyways, you can find it online. But in this game, you're trying to. Well, the faithfuls are being faithful, but the traders are trying to try to manifest something they're not. They want to look like a faithful, right? So it's just an
I
interesting.
don't know this one. I've never. This is a couples one.
No. This is
Oh.
traders. So you have the traders that are picked and the faithfuls, and they do things. But
I don't know that one.
oh, this must be a totally different one. I'm gonna send it to you. It's awesome.
Yeah.
This is Traders Canada too.
No, never heard of it.
Okay.
No, cool. Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, I
What
don't.
traders were you talking about?
I was thinking of The Trust. Have you seen that? You've seen that one, The Trust on Netflix.
Oh, the trust. Oh, totally. Yeah, I said. Yeah.
Yeah, I usually don't do couples ones. But
Yeah. Traders isn't a couple. It's all singles.
oh, okay.
And it's all of these shows are like, so I love these shows. I mean, I cannot, will not ever, and if you watch it, it's okay, no judgment here. My daughter watches the unclassy Big Brother, all of that stuff.
I don't watch any of that. I don't.
So,
Or The
but
Bachelor.
for me, Squid Games was great. There was another one they did, 99, which was weird. So these Korean shows are pretty interesting.
Those are great. Like Physical 100. I love it.
Yeah, 100. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I love most about it is the overdubbing. And like, I just like, it's so, I want a job like that because I could be that unrealistic, right? But yeah, so I love these shows like Survivor or those types of things and the show Traders the same way because it's a psychological experiment with people.
Of course.
Right?
The behaviors,
And
the mindset.
yeah, and in it, so Survivor is a great example. In it, you have people looking at social skills. You can win some stuff or whatever, but like you can win like some protection, whatever, right? But the whole idea is you're trying to understand what other people need or want from you. So you're trying to be, some people will try to be true to themselves, and if that works or not, sometimes does, sometimes doesn't.
Yeah.
Then other people that are in the game, they understand it's a game and it's not meant to be.
That's right.
But for some people, it's personal.
That's
and
right.
Feelings are hurt.
That's right.
And you got blindsided. Right?
You need to be, you have to be in the game mentality.
Catfishing will blindside you.
That's
so exactly anyways, like right. Michelle said, everybody be safe.
That's right. Everybody be safe online. I was thinking of you last night. I was watching in between episodes of The Circle. I was watching I think it was a TED Talk actually about calcium buildup on your pineal gland, which is interesting.
What gland?
Your pineal gland.
Just making sure.
It's it. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I know what a pineal gland.
Okay.
But I didn't hear calcium.
So it gets a calcium buildup over time, and it affects your sleep. It makes you not be able to have a solid sleep and sleep full time. It made me think of you. So yeah, something to think of. Maybe that's why you have so many issues with sleeping consistently.
I'll
Although
have
if you're
to.
still well rested, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I feel good. I've been on for a couple of months, a new it's a root. I won't say it wrong. I think it's from Africa, Ashwagandha, whatever root.
Oh, that one. Uh-huh.
And it's calming and all this stuff. You know what? I've been on it for a couple of months. And so when I wake up in the morning now, so I still don't get good sleep. Like a good sleep for me is 6 to 6.5 hours. That's
Okay.
a good
Look,
thing.
everybody's different. There's no 8 hour
Yeah.
rule. That's
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Teresa needs 9 or 10 or she feels like a zombie. So it's
Right.
interesting, brain, whatever, right? I
Everybody.
know some people that work on 4, right? Which
And have power naps too.
and I'm not sure. Well, I know some people don't have power naps.
Mm,
They're highly they're 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 skinny and their metabolism, whatever happens, they just burn off. So they just don't stop,
right.
right? And
It's too bad.
pro- yeah. So, but I think with it, I'll look into that because I find like I'm learning more and more because I need to learn about myself physically. So
Yeah, of
talking
course.
calcium, all that,
Yeah.
and again talking about meditating. One of the things I do is not really meditation, but I do. I was telling Teresa about this actually. I do a bit of self awareness, just my own check in, right?
Good.
And I don't all the stuff that I talk about meditation and stuff like this. I do it naturally. So like I had to create the habit, so it took discipline. But now it's not like I don't like I'm working on discipline at the gym. I'm trying to build up my cardio and stuff, right? But I'll do a check in with myself. I don't even look in the mirror anymore, but I'll be say sitting on the couch having a coffee or just chilling out, and then everything's off, and then I'll ask myself what you asked me, say like so. I'll ask myself, how are you doing?
Hmm.
Because sometimes the way we look out, we hear out, like everything is an external information process, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I'll do this in it's actually it almost feels like meditation to me in the sense of because meditation for me it isn't, by the way, but to me it's one of these tools that's helpful because with meditation, and I do it different than you, but with me with meditation, I slow down, I don't think. I actually made a few notes of you talking about thinking of being in a different place. Like I don't do that, so that makes me curious, right? But my meditation is
You should
even
try
after
it.
sleep, I just chill out, pull off side road, whatever I do, and I don't meditate when I feel stressed. I can, maybe I do.
Oh, but that's not the best time. No.
No, but what I'll do is I just feel like mornings for sure, and then sometimes in the evening I'll just actually before I go to bed. So before I go to bed,
It's a great time.
turn the TV off,
Yep.
sit in quiet. There's only one little light on, and I'll close my eyes and I'll just sit there and I'll just breathe and I'll focus on my breathing.
Focus
And
on
then,
space.
and then just like, have you heard of, off topic here, but we'll get to where we're talking about. Have you heard about, people, oh, I don't know if it's when they go into cold water, but where they can slow their heart rate.
It is cold water. Yeah.
Like, so basically the amount of blood pumping through their body is just enough to keep it functional, right?
Exactly right. That
Insane.
is,
Well,
yeah.
insane is probably, I don't mean to say it's a bad word, but
Yeah. No, that's okay. There's a guy that his name is Wolf somebody. I don't know if Kate's on here listening or not, but I'm sure that's his name. And oh, Wim Hof. I don't know how I got
Wolf.
from Wolf to Wim Hof. Maybe because there is a W and an F in there. But I'm going to actually share this page for you real quick.
Okay.
And if you're interested in this sort of thing, this gentleman, and I used to have a lady in this area. She was an old Weight Watcher member. She used to do it every morning. She would have an icy cold tub. She'd go outside. She'd talk on video for a minute and then she'd soak. And this guy, Wim Hof, this is his website, wimhofmethod.com. this is his gig. And he's not that he's the inventor, but he's the one that really look, it's all in here, the science, the benefits, testimonials.
Yeah.
He's got all sorts of different things, but he's the first one I heard of that made it really famous. And it's crazy how cold it is. And he just gets right in there. And they just, yeah, I mean, talk about your sensory deprivation tanks. Remember, we talked about that? Sort of same idea, but it is not for me. I'll be the first one to say, no, thank you. But I understand how it works. Mine
But if
don't
but
matter.
if but if you but here's the thing, right? Because
Yep.
we're pretty spoiled. You know, we're not all rich. We're not poor. We're pretty spoiled, right?
Yep.
If all of a sudden some whatever happens and changes our world, like all of a
Yep.
sudden, you know, a meteorite, like, and I'm being, I watch some of these not sci-fi movies, but I watch a lot of scientists talking about life and different
Love it.
things, and like
Yeah.
I love that stuff, right? But if all of a sudden, if this is like survival, right? If all of a sudden Toronto or where you are, Sarnia, went into a deep freeze
Oh, well, I'd manage.
and you have no power, everything's not working,
Yeah.
you can't have a fire. There was a movie. Sorry, we're talking about movies today, people. Sorry, movies and websites and books. Edge of Tomorrow.
Yes. Edge of Tomorrow. Okay, let me process. Who's in that one? If it's the one I'm thinking of.
McQuaid. Edge of Tomorrow. You gotta look it up, right?
I'm
So
looking it up
it's
right now.
basically whatever happens, but New York freezes, and the one guy's trying to get to New York to save his son or daughter, son, I think it is, right?
Okay.
And whatever causes the earth to freeze, something happens, right? But they're in this big library in New York,
Yes.
and they have to burn all the books. And then somebody's going, well, we certain books we shouldn't burn, right? But to me, it's that picture wrestle with when you get to a point of
Love those movies.
yeah, yeah, it's like yeah. So for me, like the potential, I don't live in fear, which is good. I don't like doesn't benefit me, right?
No, right.
Even
That's
being
right.
even being sick or like somebody I was talking to somebody the other day that just found out that their 19-year-old son has cancer, right?
Mm.
So
Mm.
you deal with it. You're allowed to like, you know, be remorseful. Like you got to allow those emotions to deal with them, right?
Yeah,
But then you got to take fear out of it because it's not going to help this father. It's not going to help his son. It's not going to help his family, right?
that's right.
But you don't have to live in denial. So I told him, he goes, I don't want to feel fake. But I said, you don't have to live in denial, but don't let fear just take this talking meditation. Actually, I think I mentioned it. I said, find something to meditate on, right?
That's
But
right.
these things there's things we can't control. So like you said, you know, the 60s a new 40 or whatever, right? I notice around me people who are older, I'm thinking mom a little bit, people like that are in their late 70s and 80s, and all of a sudden you see this deterioration comes faster, but it seems like we don't get older. Like I'll probably be 60 at 75 or 80, depending what I do, right? Keep my
Yeah, of
mind.
course.
But when our body and mind get to a certain, it doesn't matter age, it can be 100. Like
Yeah.
we hit whatever our time is, and then all of a sudden mechanical goes and listening and like mom repeats tells me
Sometimes.
things the same
Yeah,
all the time, right?
right.
And so to me it's an interesting thing. It doesn't make it sad, it's just our humanity. We
Right.
we live in a cycle of life like the Lion King, and
Well, and
we
we learn so much at the beginning. We learn more in the first 2 years of life, like big things, walking,
yeah,
sitting, rolling over. And then again at the end of life,
yeah.
right?
Well, and at the end of life, there's another. I don't remember the movie. Sorry, now as everybody knows, I watch a lot of movies. They probably think I need
Yeah,
movie
what's
counseling,
wrong with you?
but there's several movies I'm thinking generally of where we get to the end of our lives and all of these memories flash back, and they could be these could be different movies, could be like a sciency
Yep.
one or whatever, right? And and like my language too is when I get to this, and when we talk about guilt, it'll fit in. But when I get to this age, and I have the privilege getting older to look back, and the
Right.
way the mindset, the eyes that look at something. So even cancer 8 years ago, right? It was 8 years ago or 7 years ago, October 10th, like surgery was. And I, in the moment of survival mode and disbelief and all, you've been through what you like when you found out about your breathing, right? When we can look back, I'm laughing at it. It's easy to say because I'm alive still. If I'm not alive, I can't look back, right?
No,
But
you're
when we look back, we get to see we get a different perception of that experience.
right.
So things that we thought were like going to kill us or the worst of the worst, relationally,
Yeah.
institutionally, whatever, all this stuff, right? And so for me, going back to like you said, like this whole idea of when we get older, reminiscing is such an important, powerful tool. As we get into guilt, not don't reminisce on like I don't believe like if I stub my toe, you cut your finger, right?
Yeah.
And it's healing,
It is.
but you're never going to say, "Oh, I didn't cut my finger." No, it's fine, right? You cut your finger, so what, right?
Right.
But part of it is having that balance. Going, okay, I've been through that. Doesn't matter. I'm here now, and this is what I've learned from it, or this is how it's helped me, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a
Yeah.
lesson in everything. Sometimes we don't know what it is till much after the fact. Do you ever find that like you look back to say something in your 20s that you haven't thought about for a long time, and then all
Right.
of a sudden, because time has gone by, and because you have new information, right? Whether like personal growth or whatever that is, then you might have that aha moment
Yeah.
of, oh, that makes sense now. And it could be in the bigger scheme of things, like some big, what you believe to be some sort of universal truth, or it could be just as small as, oh, that's why that happened, because I have that new information that that other thing was going on that I wasn't knowledgeable about at the time, or
Right.
you know what I mean? Because you're right, that perspective really matters, but it changes over the year. Like even with the same one human, look, you could ask me about a scenario in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and I may very well give you a different answer,
Yeah. And,
right?
and in it, so it'll be interesting. So now, because Michelle was the one I said, "Hey, what do you want to talk about?" And so we said, "Hey, talk about this," right? Which
Hmm.
was great because we're usually on the same page, right? So when you want to talk about leaving the past behind, not so leaving the past behind, so leaving the past isn't all about guilt. We're kind of talking about it now.
Yeah,
But
that's one of the
when we
emotions.
think of the word guilt or when we're talking about guilt, what is your thoughts with that? What are your thoughts?
What? I don't understand.
Well, the reason I'm asking because funny thing is I had coffee with Teresa this morning and we were talking about something and I told her what we're talking about today and she said, and I thought this was interesting. She says guilt is a feeling. We're talking about guilt and shame. She brought up guilt and shame. Says
Sure.
this is who she works for the government probation. She goes, guilt is a feeling we have for something we did, right?
Yeah,
Basically,
sure.
shame is how other people's make us feel about something we did.
Mm.
If they shame us, this is
Oh,
as
but you can shame yourself.
yeah, you can live in shame, right?
Yeah, exactly. And nobody might never know,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, for sure. And with guilt too, you could have guilt that's created or enforced by other people, which, example, you didn't go to the Christmas party, people are trying to make you feel guilty, right? So there's that. Or then the other side of it is, you lied. That's
yeah,
why you didn't go. You feel guilty and it'll eat you up, even though those other people may never know that my mom died. Just
yeah,
whatever lie I made up, right?
yeah,
Just saying. So I mean it's like the sections of an onion, right? Like I mean you're
yeah.
peeling it away all the time, but you can't get locked in there. I
No,
think, you know, that's the big part of it. Like
Yeah,
whatever.
and the first part I think is when you mentioned the first part was like leaving the past behind that,
Mm,
and then the subsection was not bringing guilt into the future. So I thought if you and me, Michelle, we bring up something like that. We don't do a lot of um like we're smarter if we talk about things we know or we have
yeah,
some
for
knowledge
sure.
in. So here's a thought: if you want to do this, right? So I thought we can use me. I'll be the guinea pig. I'll be the test subject.
Oh, it's about time.
You
Geez.
can be the psychologist, no, the
All right.
psychologist,
I've got my pen and
pathologist.
my glasses. I'm
Yeah.
ready.
So and I thought it'd be good to do this because what we can do is we're actually modeling, we're kind of giving kind of an example, right?
Okay.
So this is coming with leaving the past behind and not bringing guilt into the future. So this is a private group. So just telling everybody sharing this, this will be shared on YouTube. So that's my responsibility, me and Michelle's. But what I'm sharing is private. I really don't care. It happened a long time ago. So it's not that big of a deal, but I'm going to share, I'm going to be very personal because
Okay.
I want it to help us, right? So when I was younger, so we're talking about leaving the past behind in guilt. And I just want to model something, right?
Yeah, of
So
course.
and you know most of the stuff. So when I was younger, under the age of 6, I was molested. Um, at the age of 8 or 9, I'm the eldest. All the kids, and I was in very brutal physical abuse, either seeing it happen to mom or I lived in that environment, right?
That's right.
And so then and so in it, so I experienced a neglect. I experienced like just all those types of things. And this is back in the 60s, born in 61, right? And then I didn't know how to deal with stuff. And then a few of us went back with our mom, and Michelle and I's mom, it's both our biological mom, tried to do the best that she could coming out of this broken, dysfunctional relationship, generational, right? So what I ended up doing to mask, to you don't deal with your pain. So I started using drugs at the age of 10 and 11. I started selling drugs at the age of 12. By the age of 12, and I was pretty chill. I was a hippie dude, right? But by the age of 12, I'm selling drugs. I've been to jail for that. I've been to jail for selling for in the States, right? In my late teens and early 20s, right? And so, but what happened was in the midst of my so I sold drugs because I was poor. I needed money to buy stuff. And I was doing drugs because I didn't know how to deal with
That's right. Kill
trauma and everything
pain.
that happened. We didn't have the information back then, right?
That's
So
right.
I didn't know how to deal with that. With this, and I'm not worried about it. But in this, I did like I would lace some drugs I had, like I sold pot and hash stuff like that, right? And well, other stuff like that. And I, but I had people not intentionally, but ended up doing things like jumping off a 16th floor balcony and
Right.
killing themselves
I,
in a place. So the reason I'm saying that, and I had a couple friends that you know OD'd and like whatever, right? So in the midst of that, there can be a direct thing. So I wrestled with that for a lot of my life because talking about guilt, right? So
yeah.
here's the thing: is like, and I don't have this happen now, but I had years and years where one of my best friends took his life. We all got high and stuff, and then he went home and sat in
Yeah.
his car, right? And
Yeah.
so I took responsibility for that. I took responsibility for what happened to mom. I took responsibility for the man who molested me. For none of this now, by the way.
No,
I
right.
must have done something to make him want
That's
to do
right.
that to me,
That's right.
which
That's right.
is effing bullshit,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
For
But I get it.
anybody, if you're dealing with this stuff,
Yeah.
it's BS. Just
That's
giving
right.
you a freebie, right? So
That's
at
right.
the end of the day, it took a long time for me to not be stuck in the past
That's right.
because and what would happen, which is easy, it's interesting with seasonal depression or finding out different like depression could be I think I've read enough that it could be genetic depression. Anxiety and depression could be hard genetic, but it's all could be nurtured, right?
Hmm.
So it's like PTSD happening, somebody goes to war, right? And
Right.
triggers, right? And so I went through all that, and even when I got out of that, stopped doing drugs, kind of got my life around, got married, that um, I would be good, but these almost like um, mental relapse wouldn't be emotional, wouldn't affect my life. I've never relapsed in any way, right?
Yeah,
But mentally, you get a picture of something, and then all of a sudden, guilt would come back.
absolutely.
And so there's the premise of what we're talking about. So you heard my story. You're my counselor.
Okay, so I'm curious,
So
like, so was there an aha moment when you realized that like you could let that go? Because the reality is, and this is just me, I mean, I'm an outsider looking in, but I'm not. But like with the environment and the surroundings, you didn't have a fighting chance. Like really, right? When you think, and this is for like all the kids
yeah,
that were left behind. If you and I don't like using those words, but I know you know what I mean.
yeah,
And our mom didn't have the skills, obviously, to give you the skills. So like, you know what's so interesting about that though is when I listen to that and knowing what I know about your environment, where you come from to where you are now, like, oh my God, so proud. Like that is all on you. You didn't get that from our mom. You might have got the like keep swimming upstream, being consistent and persistent. But besides that, like that's all on you. That and your environment and changing the people, like a lot of different steps. But that is so amazing that you've
yeah.
turned that corner. A lot of people, that story ends up in a grave.
Yeah, and
It
and
really
it's
does.
one of the things that is the show that you and James did found that podcast, is this still available online?
It is. I believe so. I have it bookmarked.
Yeah, if people are comfortable, I think because what we're talking about, see the thing about the sense of feeling abandoned or devalued, even if the person is not meaning to devalue you. Like I'll use my biological dad. So me and Michelle have different fathers, right? So
Yeah.
my biological dad, his name's Tom. He died beginning of this year, I think.
Or yeah, or something like that.
Yeah, in about
Yeah.
a year. I haven't seen him like in 50, 60 years, maybe. And you know what? He was a violent man to his death. He was an alcoholic and a violent man. And not making excuses for him. I don't have any hate towards him. It was not my to me, my biological father, right? But in it, I'm not giving him an out, but that environment, he the sense of devalued, not affirmed, and these things, he he was he was doing what he knew to what he
Yeah,
felt to be was
exactly.
probably him being as violent was this feeling, and like when people are dealing with anger and things like that. So again, we know more, right? So and for him, he wasn't, this is we're talking about mom too or other things.
Yeah.
This compulsion isn't, it's almost all the time, most of the times it's not about the person, it's about yourself. It's like affairs, right? Again, not making excuses for people affairs, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times with affairs, and if anybody's listening to this, you've had this experience. I do apologize if it's triggering. I'm not sharing it that way. But what happens is majority affairs has nothing to do. Let's say it's the male spouse having an affair. It's almost always not to do with the wife. It's got to do. It doesn't mean things good or bad at home. Almost all the times, it's his issue. It's
Mm.
his. Now I'm not validating it. Like now, a wife may go, because sometimes, depending on personality, some women go, "Oh, they'll take responsibility for his affair."
Oh, definitely not.
Right?
Right.
So now to be better partners, that's a whole different thing, right? So
Right.
for me, talking about guilt and shame, like one of the biggest things for me is um I would see pictures of people I knew that died,
Yeah.
right? And in my life, like even later in this life where I've kind of got my crap together, majority, I'm a pretty
Yeah.
good guy. I'm decent, right?
Yeah.
I've got lots of life scars,
Yeah.
like most of us,
Absolutely.
but those are not painful scars. Those are it almost reminds me of Gladiator. The new Gladiator is coming out to be good. It's
Oh,
almost
I'm
like
excited.
it's almost like Gladiator where they're badges of honor, right? So there's a way we can look back now and you don't validate, well, I'm glad my dad was angry. That's stupid,
No,
right? But all of a
that's,
sudden you can say, no, that's not my responsibility, right? The people,
yeah.
go ahead, you would say something.
Well, and I think the thing is too is like as you get older, as so for an example, you're a parent now. So like how old do you think he was when he had his first child? When he had you?
Tom, mom was born in 44. He was probably maybe 21.
What? He was older than that much older than her?
Yeah, mom turned 17 in August 20th and had me in October. And I
Yeah.
think he was 3 or 4 years older than her, I think.
Oh, I thought they were the same age for some reason.
No, no, yeah.
Okay.
Not that's if our sister pops on, she can put on, but that's what I know. I don't remember, right?
Okay. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
believe I
Absolutely.
believe he was a bit older because it was like that, ooh, swoon, swoon. This older guy's giving me
Pulling
attention.
hair. Hey, he
Yeah.
had the ducktail.
Ducktail.
That's
Anyways.
so funny. Well, because my thinking was, because she was young, was that, like just imagining, so taking the anger aside, but just imagining, because I do this with her, and, in all fairness, doing it with him, imagining what his life was like with five babies, like really, you were all babies a year apart, right? So, like, so five babies, and then they're both cheating on each other, let's be honest, right? And whatever that looked like. So it just makes you wonder, what was going on in his head for him to be so angry and a cheater because he was, with
Yeah.
Sheila and whatever, whatever. So it's just interesting. And this is something like with my parents, like that adopted me, that I've often had to think of, like, well, what was their life like? How,
Yeah.
and then whatever the fallout of that is. So it's just, I find it fascinating, but
Yeah.
it's only fascinating if you're not emotionally attached. If you're
Well,
emotionally attached, it's not
yeah.
fascinating.
And I would say too, so here's again, not that it changes what we're kind of talking about,
I know.
but see, I'm one of these people that like I want to like I'm not like analytical, well, maybe a little bit, I guess. But so this factual, right? So I'm the type of person, if I'm talking about history, ancient um Rome or
Sure.
ancient Egypt, whatever, right? The ancient world, right? You have to understand the concept of how they lived, like in the age of the Greeks and
Yeah,
the Romans. Why
that's
did
right.
they have all these gods, right? Why were
That's
the
right.
why did they do this offering here and this and that, right? Because in our thing, we're thinking like it doesn't register, right? So back with mom and dad, with Tom and Rachel, right?
Sure.
So back then, so again, obviously, mom slept with at least two other people because two different babies, right? But back in
Exactly.
that thing again, in that role, especially French Catholic, even though you're not practicing Catholic,
Yep.
that's why mom never
Oh, I
took
totally
birth
get it.
control.
Yep.
Her role would have been to stay home. She would have been allowed to see the in-laws, the Pauls,
Yep.
and her family. She wouldn't be allowed to be out because that's not the way it would happen with women of that day.
Oh, yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so
That's
for
right.
her, when
Yep.
and actually, her and I have talked lots about it, but whatever. We talk about lots of stuff as she's getting older. But for her to to start like moving, like leaving Tom and having being with other men, right? And I don't want to put mom whole on the thing because there's so much more, right?
Oh, no,
But
no, of
but but
course
that
not.
but that whole thing, like back in that culture again, this whole idea of women's um not women's rights like in a voting sense, but where women were positioned. You were to stay home, take care of the kids. You weren't to do this. The man had the ultimate, the
She's
man
a
was the ultimate.
bartender or something, wasn't
What's
she?
that?
Wasn't she a bartender, she told me?
Not till after. Not till after. So she had me at 17.
Yeah.
She had Tammy at 18. She had Tim at 19.
Yep.
She didn't have any leap years, I don't know, right? But so she would
Pretty much.
she so and if you think of Grandma Jean, so my mom on my mom's side, she had 15 kids.
Yeah.
And she had, I think, two stillbirths, right? But
Yep.
going back to the whole, so for me, like if I'm trying to help somebody deal with the past and leaving it behind, like I think it's okay to take responsibility for things, but you don't
Oh,
let
100%.
don't like you don't let that like I find people live in can live in false humility, but they're like Shreplock. Who was a guy that had like not Eeyore, the guy that had the rain cloud follow him all the time.
Oh,
Uh,
Pigpen on Charlie Brown.
yeah, I don't.
You
Anyways, I
talking
don't know
about?
if you remember, he was like mopey with it, right?
Uh-huh.
But there's people that we live like in being a victim, and you have to make that choice of saying the crappy things done to me, the crappy things that I've done, and it's not a measuring stick, but all that I've been through life has got me to today, right? And
Uh,
so what do I do with that? So the thing about guilt, so guilt again, I'm going to read the definition I pulled up because I thought it was interesting. And then cinnamons. I sound like not a topping.
cinnamon. I love
I
cinnamon.
love cinnamon, but the noun is the fact of commit. The same idea of with guilt where it's self committing that there's an offense, right? It's you're blaming yourself, right?
Right.
And this whole idea of in the kind of noun areas, there's things like penance and regret and remorse and self-reproach, shame, right? So this whole thing, like if we all wanted to, everybody who listens to this and you and me, if we wanted to lay out how many things we should feel guilty for, oh, I gave that guy the finger when he cut me off,
Huh.
or I was an ass to that waitress, whatever, right? So it doesn't do anybody any good. Like take responsibility. I say this joke, by the way. The times I was in jail, I went to jail. The charges I had to go to jail, both in Canada and the States, were things I got charged for things I didn't do, but the
Oh,
things
yeah.
I did do that I should have been charged for, like, it balanced out, right?
It's a great
But
system.
back to the leaving the past behind. So I told you my story, which I know you knew parts. So what would you tell me about how would you help me to leave the past behind? You said a little bit already.
Yeah, so I would definitely encourage you to accept it for what it was
Yeah.
as life experience. I would definitely recommend that you're kind to yourself. Again, look at the environment, right? I look at what your intention was. Your intention was not that terrible outcome. You were caught up in the moment, you were involved with other people, you were doing what you need to do for survival. You were in or flight mode, right? So you're in that mindset, and be proud of, then of course the transition to the person you are today. And exactly what you said about you would not be here in this moment, in this environment, in your apartment, in that chair with, whatever you want to, account for. It's all because of the journey you took. That had to happen to you. And
Yeah.
with me personally, I believe that it's our mission to have experiences. So when you look at it that way, it's like not saying that it's great experiences, but it's all about learning the lessons. It's all about not still having that lifestyle, not still making those decisions, right? And I think this is where having that personal grace is so very important, because
Yeah.
everybody has a story. It might not be exactly the same as yours, it might not have had the same effects as yours, but we've all got something. And it's, it's interesting. So, when people deal with grief, say, I mean, we all do with our parents, but like losing a child or losing somebody very early on. Nicole lost her best friend when she was in grade 8 to cancer. It was a hell of a lesson for a grade 8er, right?
Right.
And I can't, um, you know, have any great conversation of why it happened or why it picked Emily or, what that worked. But in my mind, I believe it was part of Nicole's life experience that, like, I can't tell you how many times I've said to her, because she's lost so many people from, because we were when she was in high school, we were the suicide capital of Canada. For
Right.
all her friends were committing suicide. So I look at that, and again, without emotion, she had to experience all these things. Now she's such a great communicator to other people that are
Yeah.
grieving, different things. So, I mean, it's a terrible thing, but learning how to grieve is a really important part of life. We're all going to lose somebody.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a little bit different, but that's where that self-work has to come in. Like, that's where, as individuals, we have to sort of put those blocks all in place in our brain too, because I can tell you all sorts of things that sound fabulous, and then you
Yeah.
can walk away, but you need to really register it. Like,
Yeah.
and I think of that with you a lot, because we were raised so different. And I
Right.
just think a lot of different things
Well,
because,
so here's the thing, because you mentioned this, you had a question earlier, you said aha moment, right?
yeah,
So here's a part. So the thing I was going to say, I'm going to share something after on our page with this, and it's one of the things when I work with people, it's about emotional triggering, and it's funny talking about guilt or shame or these type of things because there can be like like if you're guilty of something, like I said, I should have been thrown in jail for a lot of other things, right?
hmm,
Like even our sister Tammy knows, like we have one story downtown Toronto, right? Where I went to jail for something I didn't do. And but so I have to be okay that so this idea of guilt, not living in this kind of cesspool, but we have to take responsibility of our stuff. We're talking about affairs. Like I don't think anybody that has an affair, in my mind, can use any excuse to blame the spouse. This is just me, by the way. I think, in my experience, the person making that decision, and you can have emotional affairs. It could be like it doesn't have to be like
oh,
sexual.
totally, yeah,
And but in it, there still may be things as a partnership to work on or not work on. So a lot of times we have to move on because we can't work through that. Not bad, good or bad. That's why, like I think of you and Al, and I don't know lots about I know a little bit about the past, right? But you find somebody where you go, you know what? There's your word grace here. You know
right,
what? There's the ability. When we first got together, we were good, and then like a couple years in, did he pee me off? Did I pee him? Probably, but you built I talk about investing into a bank, right? So
right,
this thing I'll share, because this has got to do with that aha moment, this thing about learning what self triggers are. Like
yeah,
if you don't think, no matter what you've done, um, if you don't see value in yourself, and Michelle would say you're awesome, you're wonderful, same thing. If you don't see value in yourself, and if you hold yourself back, if you put a noose around yourself or you tie yourself up in a straitjacket or whatever, I'm talking more mentally and emotionally, you're no good to yourself, you're no good to anybody else, right? So I'll get to my aha moment, but this thing about triggers, because if I don't have a moment and if I don't let that moment hit me, and if I don't allow more moments, because there's more than one moment, by the way, more moments to remind me that, you know what, I'm okay, right? Me and Michelle talk about, so Michelle and one of our other siblings, well, no, actually, four of the seven siblings were given up for adoption, right?
right,
So there can be a sense of abandonment. We talk about sort of like most of them went to pretty decent homes. The homes that we were in, that mean the two oldest were had some alcohol issues, some stuff, right? Doesn't it, right? But so at the end of the day, we're still dealing with things. So you could be in a good home, but you still feel devalued, abandoned,
oh, sure.
you know. And
I,
so
I don't
so
think the home matters. I think,
and and in it, like me and Michelle will know, when you get older, that as a 20 years old or 25 or 30-year-old or 16-year-old or as a like when you're younger, we don't know how to deal with it, and it'll immobilize us. We'll all of a sudden we'll freeze, right? Mentally, emotionally, maybe physically, right? We're not good in other relationships because our self value now sometimes is out of somebody else. But here's the thing about triggers, and again, I'll post it, but then I'm going to use my aha moment because I'm going to use something Michelle knows, which for some people who know me, it wasn't about a religious moment that was an aha moment. In a way it was, but that wasn't, it wasn't what I thought. And it took things that were just not coincidences, Michelle said. But here's the thing, right? Things that can trigger us, unless we deal with the guilt and shame of our lives, unless we come to a place of self-acceptance, self-love, right? Go, you know what? I can't make excuses. I can't defend if I did anything bad or stupid. But today, I want to be a person that influences and calls out the good in people. Michelle is our A type, right? So words or phrases will trigger you. Memories, past experience, interactions with special individuals. We use the example as a kid. Mom was yapped by a big dog, and I think it bit her, like nipped her, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Afraid of dogs her whole life, right?
of course. Yeah.
Right. So unless you deal with the phobia, right? So things like fears and phobias, rejections, betrayals, right? So the thing is, how do you manage through those things? And so how do you, like, you don't want them dormant because something will trigger you and you'll have a
That's
relapse,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So what Michelle and I are trying to do with our individual journeys and what we try to share with you, right? Awareness is huge, huge, huge. Awareness, roots and curiosity. Don't look at, like, if you've been in a broken relationship and you're fearful. I work with my daughter, right? You're fearful. She left the guy that was a bad situation, very narcissistic, that, and then because she didn't feel any value, she talked about what was our word? Talk about catfishing. She
Yeah.
wanted acceptance and to be valued, and she made some mistakes, right?
Yep.
So until you kind of, what's that word? I know my religious friends won't like this. Chakra? Is it chakra?
Chakra. Yeah, your chakras.
Cleansing, right?
Yeah.
So
All part of meditating.
yeah. So some of my religious friends, the word I would throw into that is it's your soul.
It is.
It's your soul. So
and your energy. That's right.
Like, you want to get passive, don't get all hooked up on stuff, right? I was gonna say, don't get hooked up on shit, right?
Yeah.
Move past it, because the more freer you are. So this thing about an aha moment. So for me, got out of jail last time. I was in, no, it wasn't the last time. Got out of jail. George was my stepfather, and he was the way that my mom got the three oldest back. He was a truck driver, had a steady job. We had stability, we had food. Weren't rich, but we had food and roof over, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I got out of jail, and I had to take a Greyhound bus from Toronto to Vancouver.
Oh God.
3 days. I can't sleep on my back, so I had some medicinal help, which didn't really help. I don't think I slept for 3 days. And I get there, and he's on his last month of living. And he's on, so again, remember, I took drugs to deal with my emotional, mental brokenness, the scars of what had happened to me, right? So here I see George, who was like 240 pounds, now he's 130 pounds.
Oh dear.
He's on morphine for end of life pain.
Yeah.
He's hallucinating like crap.
Yeah.
I used to hallucinate for fun.
Right.
And I was able to be there about 3 weeks before he passed away.
Okay.
I got out of jail time. So that was, meant to be, right?
Yeah. No coincidences.
And in that moment, like, if I look back, I wouldn't say an aha moment. When I look in that moment, I remember, though, I was like, I didn't realize I had a thought of going, oh man, like I take stuff like this to make me high. I didn't know to forget about stuff. I probably knew, but it was suppressed, right?
Yeah.
But seeing him in that made me sad, right?
Of course.
But not like, well, sad because he was dying, right? But it was interesting because it was a few years later, this whole idea of needing to medicate, not like, if you need a drink or whatever, there's no judgment, right? If you're over medicating, talk to somebody. Yeah. But there wasn't this guilt thing, but this thing is now I'd grown out from heavy use of drugs to mild use of drugs. I was a workaholic though, so that was my new
Yeah,
drug.
you switched
And
over.
then George passed away, and I was involved. I was a chef in restaurants, and work food industry. You work lots if you want to.
Yeah.
And so I remember this moment going, and I vividly remember a moment going, seeing him middle of the night. I'd watch him for mid the night hours so mom could sleep, and because we had to watch him. And I remember falling asleep and waking up, and he's on some couch cushions on the floor, and he was, "Get in the boat, the fish are biting." And so now it's pretty funny, right? Like, it is
Yeah,
funny. Right?
now after the fact.
In the moment, it was like, it wasn't not funny or whatever, right? But the other thing that happened too, when he passed away, so let's talk about revelation.
Yeah.
I felt I had to be the strong one
Of course.
for everybody again. Tim had just gotten frostbite on his fingers.
Oh,
I think
okay.
Tammy was in the East Coast, right? And this auto kick in of taking the barrel and response. So you know what I didn't do? I didn't grieve. I want to make sure everybody else is okay.
Of course.
Right?
That's
So
right.
now, why? Subconsciously, it was felt that I felt guilty.
Yeah.
And I had to make sure, to the best of my ability, everything was okay. Right.
Right.
And then after whatever, I went, and probably for a while I grieved in a way. And I'm not going to say detail, Michelle knows, but I had he was the man who raised me. He's my father, right?
Huh.
And he wasn't perfect.
No.
He had issues. He wasn't violent, which was probably a huge stability in the home. Like, not having violence in your home, like, for those that have, like, I deal with men that have been physically violent to their spouses.
Yep.
And they're gone. So I'm dealing with them. I'm not trying to reconcile them. I'm trying to say, we've got to figure out why this is
exactly.
Right.
That's right.
So back to the aha. So you have these little moments, and then I had an experience that was very spiritual, and but it was these little bits of aha. But when I look back, it's like climbing a mountain. Like, I'm not a mountain climber, by the way. You climb a mountain, cliffs, and you hit a plateau, and you look back, you go, holy crap, look how far I came.
Exactly. Amazing.
So, Michelle, as I've gotten older and I'm willing to give up the pain, the shame,
right.
the guilt,
That's right.
I find I'm freer in life.
Good. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Self-awareness, and owe it to yourself. Again, I'm going to be vulnerable again, right? I did today. I haven't done this for a month. I haven't stepped on the scale because I've been going to the gym once a week instead of 3 times a week.
Yep. Exactly.
And with some pills I have, I've been snacking a bit more.
Okay.
And you know what I said this morning? I said, screw it. I got on.
Yep.
Was I happy where I was? Well, I was better than I thought, but still not where I want to be.
But you're better than you thought.
Not about the weight. It was about the strength and courage to not be scared, to take the moment.
Exactly.
To find out where I'm at mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, and be willing to say, you know what, I'm not going to be scared anymore. Because I'm too old to waste a lot of time. I'm young. I'm a 40-year-old. But with guilt, my thought on guilt, if you've done something and you feel guilty for it, like if you feel like there's an issue for it, if there's responsibility. Here's another sidebar. I know lots of people, by the way. I know somebody who treated their parents really bad. Their parents died.
Right. And
older child.
Yeah.
Parents never measured up. Traumatized now to whatever. So you know what I had them do? Part of some of the counseling. I said, do this. And it was a son, and it was actually more his dad. He goes, when I became it, he goes, I was just so mad at my dad. All he did was work.
Yeah.
Common, right? So I said, write a letter to your dad.
Exactly.
And he says, well, that's stupid. I said, have you done stupid things before? He says, I said, would writing a letter be maybe one of the less stupid things you've done? wrote the letter. It's like the screen therapy guy, right?
It works.
Wrote the letter. Like if you're feeling, and it's changed him, aha moment. If anybody we're talking about feels guilty, like if there's guilt that is stopping you from going forward, then figure out, talk to somebody, talk to us, get some help. Um, that stuff will keep you going in circles and keep you stuck forever.
Well, that's right. And quite often that conversation or writing the letter or even reliving it or that's where the aha moment lives, where
Yeah.
that shift happens, where all of a sudden you have that the at peace that
Yeah.
and you can't change it. You can't go backwards, right? The whole thing. And then the other people involved, they had to have that experience as well, right? But I think really, yeah, I mean, if you owe somebody an apology, give them the apology, work through it. But sometimes even just rehashing the conversations, right? So that you're just, getting different perspectives. Like it's so interesting how you might think something was terrible or somebody knew something or whatever, and it's not even true, but you've carried it. And then that other perspective of, well, even just that one you gave me that Tom was older, right? Because I always imagined these two young people with all these babies back to back to back to back.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Is that what you're thinking of?
Sort of, yeah. And then I imagine, you know, like what those dynamics were like
Yeah.
of of her getting pregnant with me, the first one with a different dad. Like I can't even imagine all those dynamics, right? Like it's just so interesting, like thinking about what her emotions must have been,
Yeah.
and knowing that that was a fork in the road that wouldn't be you know what I mean? Like I don't think there is, when she was pregnant with somebody else's child, I don't think there was an opportunity to reconnect there. Do you know what I mean? So it's
100%.
yeah, so and then of course Jimmy, somewhat of the same situation. So it's just so interesting when you think about all the different people involved. It's like all the, again, peeling the onion, everybody's experiences. And then our mom was in and out of foster care as well, and being like it's generational dysfunction through and through. So looking at that, throwing everybody a bone, to think like, and I think all of us 7 kids have abandonment syndrome to one extent or another. Even you, like you're away and back and away and back. I don't know if that's worse or not, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Like I had 2
Well,
foster homes. That's
and
not good.
in it, see, and in it, not right. So in it
Right.
for me, the fact that my biological father denied that I was his son.
Mm,
See, it's funny how in the moment we manufacture, manipulate. We want to believe what we want to believe. So let me use a fun one. My good old movie Hook with Robin Williams.
love it.
He really is Peter Pan, but he thinks he's Peter Banning the lawyer.
That's right.
And at the end, when his kids are captured or halfway through, and he's got to find his happy thoughts, and they're doing all that stuff, and he's just exhausted, right? There's something about becoming mentally, emotionally exhausted where you stop. It's like struggling for water, like you're drowning in the ocean.
Yeah.
And people that are going to save you got to wait till you stop struggling to save you because you'll bring them down, right? So there's
Right.
something about this self learning. And so Robin Williams all of a sudden realizes he's Peter Pan, right?
Yeah.
Now he can fly, he can crow, he can do it, right? So there's something, and here's a saying about understanding. It's one of my favorite sayings, right? It's understanding comes through communication, and through understanding, we find the way to peace. And that understanding can be self peace, right? So like you said, so I'm making an assumption here, so it's not factual, right?
Okay.
You look at somebody like a person like our mother at 16 back
Right.
in the early 60s. You're to
Yep.
be seen, like the kids, seen and not heard. Don't
Yep.
talk to unless you're don't talk back, let's
Yep.
talk to. that's the environment you lived in. That in the
Yeah.
60s, that's what it was, right?
Yes.
And with your British family, it would have been a little bit
I
different,
was
but
gonna say
similar.
that was my life right there.
It was similar, right? So this idea of all of a sudden you feel like the one you loved, and all of a sudden your world, and you've had these experiences, all of a sudden what felt like, a beautiful Romeo and Juliet all of a sudden turned into Beetlejuice or something stupid, right? And so, and I'm making the assumption is because we want to be loved, we want to give love. Majority of people,
Absolutely. Yeah.
we want to be loved, and we want to be shown love and respect.
Right.
And so I like, and I'm assuming mom would have been a little bit like my daughter. People, the rebound language, right? Is
Oh,
sometimes you're
100%.
just
Yeah.
you're even though they're telling you what you want to hear,
Oh, yeah.
catfishing in a way, not extent, but little bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
As long as somebody says I'm pretty and I'm beautiful and I'm wonderful, there's part of our soul needs that. So in a way,
Oh,
this little bit of
absolutely.
what's that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you add in those hormones and everything too,
Yeah.
right?
So
Young.
even leaving, like you talk about emotional affairs and people needing to sense emotional, and using again statistics will say women are more amped to, if they're gonna have an affair, will have an emotional affair. Men will more have a physical affair. I mean, the stats have changed more. Women will do both. My joke with men is men are mostly emotionally mature enough to have an emotional affair. Men will emotionally flirt, right? But
Right.
but all of a sudden, this whole idea of communicating. So I want to go back to, we are talking about with me about the question of leaving the past behind.
Yeah.
At some point, you make the decision, realize you're not fully there, right? You make the decision to go, I'm really worth doing the work. I'm not going to hide. I have some people I say you need to talk to a therapist like every 2 weeks, and if you can't afford one, there's free stuff available in Canada. Like you just, and some people go, well, they want a therapist or a counselor to fix them in a day or two. That's our culture,
Right.
and it's not even about that. Sometimes it's not reliving. Sometimes it's reworking. It's like a mantra in a way, like the mantra
Yeah.
of the different. But there's something about working through, working through something where all of a sudden you have a breakthrough.
That's right.
And so back to me, it took a lot of those things, because one of the things I've said, when my wife married me August 1st, 33 years ago, whatever it was, when she came down the aisle, Michelle, I'm sitting there, I'm in awe. She's 21, I think I'm in my mid 20s. I'm 5 years old, something like that.
Mhm.
And I believe, talk about rejection, the power of friggin' rejection. As she's walking up, and there's would be no reason to her, and it's something really bad in me.
That's
I
right.
think she's gonna say, no, I'm not gonna do this. That's it. I feel like she's gonna leave me at the altar.
Yeah.
That sense of guilt and shame and brokenness and
And
your
unworthiness.
and what?
Unworthiness.
It is,
right?
Yeah. So Michelle says, we say this all the time. Michelle says, it's like more. You better understand that you. And by the way, I've dealt with some pretty horrible people. I've done some counseling, like through addiction stuff. Like that I've dealt with people that have killed family members, like horde stuff, right? And you can't change that. And there's no excuse
Can't
for
bring
that.
them back. That's right.
But they have the ability to change their narrative now, and you can't make up for that. Like I can't make up for anything that was life altering back then. I can't.
Right.
But if I'm willing to value myself, not let guilt be chains around me,
That's
shame, like I don't think shame isn't a helpful tool. Get rid of shame.
No. That's right.
Self-loathing, get rid of it, right?
Yeah.
So I think when you brought this up, this whole thing about and I wasn't thinking about sharing a bit of using my stories a bit of it until as we're talking, but the reason I want to share that is you don't have a story like mine. Maybe yours is worse, not as bad. It doesn't matter. It's not a competition. But believing that you have the ability to get through this, Michelle's journey that she has shared on here about her dad, and just like we've all had trauma. This world's
Yeah,
full of trauma, right? Her
exactly.
finger cut was traumatizing.
It was quite traumatizing. I have to type for a living. I had to try to MacGyver through that. You should see my notes from last week.
Are they full of blood?
Yeah, no, but you can hardly read them. Oh my goodness. But I think it's so true what you're saying. And, it's part of our self journey of
Yeah.
just figuring out like the weight. Like it's like when you're angry, it's only consuming you. It's not consuming the person that you're angry at, right? It's all stuff that you have to deal with on the inside. So I think just embracing life experience and realizing everybody has a story. Everybody's done things, whether it's, you're right, there's no grade scale. I mean, whether it's, stealing from somebody or, telling a non truth, sneaking out your bedroom window as a 16-year-old, whatever, right? I mean, we've all got lots of things that we carry. Or like that one is really heavy when you like, what were your last words to that one person who passed? Or, having a bad relationship with somebody. That's a tough one. I've gone through that myself. But again, it's after the fact, it's much later,
Yeah.
doing that self-reflection in that calm state, and then putting yourself in those other person's shoes and
Yeah.
just thinking like, I do that. That's where I have a lot of kindness towards our mom, is that if I find I'm getting crusty, I do have my moments, or I'm thinking inappropriate, I don't know, whatever, feeling sorry for myself
Yeah.
happens from time to time as well, then that's what I'll do. I'll put myself back into her, like what I think her shoes were. Like, having all
Yeah.
these babies, not being able to afford it, not having the instruction. When I met her, she told me she called Children's Aid on herself. And I was like, what? And she's like, well, no, that's what we did. And that's what her mom did. Like, it's like they were calling, it's like Children's Aid was their extension that helped them when they need help. Like, it's such a different way to
Well,
the way, but it's what she always had Children's Aid in her life, right? Like, it's the whole
but
package.
and here's the thing. And here's the thing with that. Again, finding understanding,
Yeah.
self-understanding, finding why this triggers me. So back in those days, once, so this would go back to Grandma Jean, once Children's Aid was involved with your family,
Yeah.
they would like when mom was little and she was with Grandma Jean and then she got older, that especially in Ontario, by the way, children's, I don't know about out west because I wasn't out west, right? Once Children's Aid is involved in families, because
Mhm,
it would only be certain types of families,
mhm.
they would follow up contact, checking with the
Good.
kids, like as the kids got older.
Yeah.
So Ron and Monty, they were put into foster care, mama to nunnery.
Yeah.
So again, we don't understand that world, right? And understanding it doesn't mean like I like what you just said there. We don't have to make excuse for like if all of a sudden the little child in me or whatever, but I feel vulnerable, I feel I feel not wanted. That's not a horrible, like I'm allowed to have that feeling.
Yeah. Of
But then
course.
like you said, what you do is you go, okay, but we like when depression comes to me. I'm trying to learn more about depression, if it's genetic, like different components. Because even though I've been through, I've got information of whatever the Yahoo, whatever
Yeah.
the saying is, the kids say. Um, Depression comes at me, but you
Yeah.
know what I do? I have enough understanding and
Yeah.
strength and resource that I can acknowledge it. So same as like guilt or shame, right?
Yeah.
So I was going to say something. I share another movie before we end that I might not have shared yet, but I'm going to share it now.
Sure. Yeah.
But understand this is a Michelle saying, probably I'm paraphrasing it. You're in the greatest story ever told. You are in
Yes.
the story of your life, and you may have had um, privilege, I deal with people who have privilege that are as lost as somebody who's been poor, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
But you're here right now, and right now you're in here with us, and you watch us say, right, you're with us. So we're journeying together. So if you feel stuck or you're having a hard time with something, and I'm not saying it's to be tough on you, but I am saying like we're allowed to feel what we feel, but we don't have the excuse that we don't have understanding and support, because we do. Sometimes we feel we have self-loathing, so we feel we don't have support. I'm telling you, if you're on here and you're having a hard time, reach out to me, Michelle. We're here for you. Just telling you, right?
Yeah.
Last movie, storytelling is my like absolute drives me.
Heard that
Storyteller
before.
and science and stuff. The
Okay.
movie is called Life of Pi.
Oh, great movie. Love it. Love it. It's a great movie.
So if you haven't seen it, first of all, the cinematography is like through the roof, like Avatar, like this movie. So my favorite part of the movie, Michelle, I think I've said this before. It's about an Indian dude, and this guy at the beginning comes to, I'm not ruining the movie, comes to talk to this guy, and he goes, I heard about the story, tell me the story. And so this Indian kid talks about growing up in India, and his family had a zoo, and they decided to go to America, and the boat shipwrecks, and the story, right? But at the very beginning, Michelle, one of my funniest things, I actually think I copied the clip somewhere. And when he's a little child in India, he is, I don't know what faith he is, what religion he is, but he goes back to his dad. He goes, oh, Dad, I became a Christian today. And then a week later, he goes, oh, Dad, I became a Buddhist today.
That's
And
right.
then, and the kid's like super cute, right?
Right.
His dad says, no, you can't be all those things at once. You have to choose one, right? And the kid's looking like weird. So I'm not like, if you have certain strong beliefs, I'm not questioning anything. I'm not propaganda anything, but I'm just telling you, this movie, the power, like, first of all, that part was pretty, I loved it because it was so simple and silly.
Yeah.
And he loses everything, and he tells a story, and he's telling the story to a reporter. And at the end of the movie, he tells the reporter, asks him, because he's talking, you have to, if you haven't watched the movie, I'm not going to ruin it. You got to watch the movie because it's a zoo, animals are involved. And the guy says, like, was this true about the story about being on the boat, the shipwreck, life raft, right? About the tiger and that.
Yeah.
And it's such an interesting thing. I've watched it like 7 times. And I watch it again. It's just beautiful. Like, actually, I can almost be in a meditative state watching it, in the sense of where I can, especially the part with the beautiful colors and the oceans of fish, like I almost zone out.
Yeah,
for
sure.
I come back sometimes, but there's something about the power of that story, right? So your story, like me and Michelle share a lot about our stuff, regardless of us being raised together, which we wish we would have. It would have been fun to have one. We would have been picking on each other earlier in life. Would have been great.
Yeah.
We would have been there for each other, right? And we don't blame anybody. Michelle would have loved for her father, who raised her, to be around longer. Didn't happen. And it's a sad, but what's that?
I said,
Can't change it. Michelle said one time, she said if she could talk to anybody ever again, it would be him, right?
Yeah.
So those things are hard, but you know what? We have the choice right now to go, I'm not going to let stinking thinking.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let, when I feel devalued, there you go. I'm going to fight, or I'm going to call 111 or whatever helpline we have.
Yeah.
If Michelle, I don't know if you do this, Michelle, but I don't know about you and Al, like last time, if you guys don't know Al, maybe some of you do, but Al's her partner. And I think last time after we came off live, I told Al I loved him or something like that. And it was kind of a real bro moment. But you know what? We don't tell people how much we appreciate them and respect them or love them.
Mm-hmm.
Tell yourself you love yourself. Michelle and I probably tell our grandkids we love them every second we have.
Absolutely.
And because there come a time where we don't have that.
Well,
we won't have it, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
That's my sad farewell.
Yeah. Is this the part that you tell them all that I'm your favorite sibling? I feel like it
Well,
is.
Mom says I hate that. By the way, Mom says everyone. She goes, "Oh, you're my favorite."
I don't need to be a
Um,
favorite because I'm unique in my own way.
so
We
no,
all
no,
have
but
moments.
no, but I'm gonna say, yeah, and our other sisters listen to this, right? I can say this with incredible integrity and honesty. Michelle and I, this journey, like, however this came about, kind of on a whim. Seriously,
I
hey,
know,
what about
right?
this? Sure, we knew parts of our lives. We've met a dozen times, however long, right?
Mhm.
I am incredibly thankful that her and I get to journey
Me
this
too.
time. This is very special for us, right?
Mhm.
And we're humbled that we can talk and share what we know in that with you guys, because we believe we can all help each other, right?
That's
My
right.
other siblings, and Michelle knows them all, and she knows my step siblings. I have different relationships with all of them. Majority of them, I love them to death,
Of
but it's
course.
different. I can honestly say that, right? Michelle
Mhm.
and I are similar. We're at this time of life, we're just similar, right?
It's so it fascinates me so much when we and with the other ones too, we have different things, but I'm spending a lot of time with you. So we're really making, that connection. But it so fascinates me that we are so like-minded that I mean, we've actually pulled this off for, this whole period of time
Yeah,
without having any sort of conflict. Not saying I expect conflict, but we're two different people. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just it so fascinates me. And again, and we talked about this a bit during nature versus nurture when we talked about that. Just like
yeah,
all the different things that connect us, that make us so similar. And of course, we're different stories, different nurturing, but those things like the wacky sense of humor that the majority of us have, or, I mean, with a lot of you with your musical talent, being public speakers. I'm a speaker, Rachel, our mom's a speaker, you're a speaker, James, I think, is a speaker, that right? I think so, like at the church or whatever, when he was with the big brothers, big sisters, whatever he
yeah,
was doing. So, like
yeah.
those things I find so fascinating and interesting that, so I'm very great because we started in January, did we not? With this?
Yeah. So we're gonna come up to a
It's like
year.
our
We're gonna
birthday.
Yeah, we're gonna. I think the date was. I think it was either the second or third February, Wednesday in January.
I
But
think
yeah,
so.
and the other thing I want to say too. So the other thing too, Michelle and I, if you notice it, they're not. It's not. It's periodically for me. We'll share things. I'm looking at our page,
Mm.
and we share things. So I'm looking at that girl, Charlotte, whatever, Charlotte A. Tucker, that little girl who's so super cute,
Oh,
and
she
she
is so
says, "Tell
cute.
the negative committee inside your head to sit down and shut up." I think, right? And then you share
Exactly.
stuff in that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna tell something. It's a bit of a secret, right? But
Yeah.
so I'm in
Okay.
sales. I'm pretty good at sales, and I'm not a shitty salesperson. Um,
Mm.
I build partnerships. That's what I do. That's what I do for business, and I'm good at it, right?
You should put
Here's
this
the
in.
thing, right? Me and Michelle, similar but our own things. Michelle's videos she has shared have been like gold. I share them all the time, right?
Good to
I'm
know.
telling you the truth. If the things we share may affect one person the 10th time or whatever, it doesn't matter because we're sharing
I love
something
it.
that's positive,
Yeah,
right?
that's
The
right.
I'm going to use about it's not whatever. For those that have issues with a mantra or chant or whatever, then I apologize. Find a happy word for you to use it, right? This, to meditate on self love and value. So to meditate mean I'm using the word as to think of. So I'm not talking
Yeah.
about a process time. You should wake up in the morning, and again, you've talked about this lots. Wake up in the morning, and when you wake up to start your day, remind yourself, say, you know what, this is going to be a good day, and you know what, whatever this day has, I have the strength, mentally, emotionally, physically, to get through it, and I choose to make a difference in my world. And if you stay at home, if you're at the grocery store, um, if you, I don't think this happens to Michelle. I have people, everyone's gonna pop into my head. You know what I do? I go, I haven't talked to that person. I'm gonna check in on them. And most of the
Good,
time, as you say, it's
I
not a
text
coincidence.
them.
What's that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I said
And
I text them.
almost all the time, even to you, this awareness, maybe they don't feel the same, but the fact that you say, hey, I was thinking about you, you want to talk about empowering somebody to show value, tell them you've been thinking about them,
Oh, exactly.
right?
Exactly right. And it's, excuse the dog. It's trying to kill my son. What do
Well,
you
I
do
think
to
we've
that
done
dog?
our hour and 31 minutes.
Yeah, I know we went way long today.
Is that Robert?
Yeah, it is. He's on his way upstairs. Yeah.
Make some food, Robert. Come on.
Yep. He's got a bag of pretzels. I think that's going to be different. That's going to be his dinner. Uncle Tom says hi.
Yeah.
He says I had McDonald's.
There you go.
Cheese.
No judgment. No judgment.
No, that's right. We all have our McDonald moments.
You know what?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, everybody have a great week. So reflect on this a little bit and just think about, what a great life you've had, full of experiences, and what you can take from that, what the lessons are to move forward. So it's all good light at the end of the tunnel, right? Very good. So we'll regroup next week, same bat time, same bat channel, same bats, and that would be all. Let's see if I can. Oh, let's see if I can.
Remind me next week, Michelle. This will be live story of my Uncle Monty phoning me and pretending he was a superhero.
Oh my
That's all
gosh.
I'm saying for now. All I'm saying now, you got to ask me next week.
Okay, Uncle
It's
Mon.
intriguing people about that. Come
All
back to
right.
hear the story.
All right, I am. So stand by with suspense, and I'm making a note. Let's hope I don't lose that post-it. And everybody have an amazing week. Don't forget how awesome and amazing you are and worthy. You're just as worthy as everybody else. Take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.